Dar Chapter 4, Healing Plants. Dar got down from the cliff and started to run in the direction of the hunting party. He stumbled and fell on the loose rocks that lay near the base of the cliff. He got up and began to run again. By the time he came upon the hunters, he was drenched in sweat and short of breath. 2 men struggled to hold up the third man, his uncle. Dar was startled by Keenock's appearance. Blood covered his torn right shoulder and left thigh, and his right arm hung limply at his side. "What happened, Uncle?" Dar gasped. Keenock spoke with difficulty. "Bison, a big male. I came in close for the spear throw. He charged, hooked me with his horns." Dar could not take his eyes from the bloody wounds. "Will you be all right?" Dar asked in a thin voice. Keenock did not reply. The 2 other hunters shook their heads in concern. Dar was relieved to see his grandmother hurrying toward them, followed by the others in the gathering party. Mora's face was creased with worry. She cut off a piece of her tunic and held it tightly against Keenock's bleeding shoulder. "Grandmother, I'm going back up to get the healing plants." He started for the cliff at a run before she could speak. "I'll meet you in camp," he shouted. At the base of the cliff, Dar looked up at the purple flowers high above him. One hawk was perched on the ledge beside them. The other soared on its broad wings, high above the ledge. Dar began the climb. He chose his steps and handholds with care. Knowing his fear might overwhelm him again, he tried not to look down. He was soon close to the spot where the rock had given way on his first climb. He slipped his foot into a narrow cleft he hadn't noticed before, but he still needed a good handhold to reach the ledge. He swept his arm overhead and found a protruding rock he hoped would support his weight. It did. He was almost to the ledge. Dar's breath came in painful gulps, but the thought of Keenock's white face and bloody wounds helped keep him going. Dar had never had the opportunity to do anything so important for his uncle or his clan. It gave him an unfamiliar sense of power. Pause. Why does he feel power or powerful in this moment? The hawk on the ledge began to scream. Dar was now close enough to see that the rocky ledge held both the healing plants and a nest with 3 downy fledglings in it. The second hawk started to drop down from the sky to defend the nest. Dar yelled at the birds, hoping to scare them off. He pulled himself up to the ledge and looked directly into the furious eyes of a hawk. The screaming, hissing bird came toward him, its wings spread in a fighting stance. When Dar reached for the plants, the hawk slashed him with its talons, piercing the skin on the back of one hand. Dar grabbed the plants near their roots and pulled them free. He shoved them into his shoulder pouch and began his descent. Their young now safe, the hawks fell silent. On the climb down, Dar was surprised to find he didn't have to think of where to put his hands, his feet, his weight. His body seemed to do the thinking for him. Dar paused to catch his breath at the base of the cliff, then ran toward camp. "I've got them! I've got the healing plants!" he shouted. The clan people were gathered outside the family tent. Inside, Mora was washing Keenock's wounds. His uncle's eyes were closed and his head lolled to one side. "Grandmother," Dar said, "where's the marrow?" Mora pointed toward a shin bone of a deer lying beside her on a flat rock. "We're lucky. This was the last marrow bone in the storage pit." Mora left Keenock to cut away the meat. Then she brought a heavy rock down on the exposed bone, shattering it to reveal the soft, yellowish, fatty marrow within. Mora spooned the marrow into a small wooden bowl. She took the plants from Dar, discarded the stems, and ground the leaves and flowers together with the rock. She added the plant mix to the marrow in the bowl and worked them into a paste with her fingers. Mora smeared Keenock's wounds with the salve. "You did a good thing, Dar. Now we can only wait." As the sky began to darken, Janu, the shaman, came quietly into the tent and nodded to Mora and Dar. He carried his small sacred drum under his arm. This quiet, withdrawn man lived alone in a small tent set back from the others. Janu was blind in one eye and had a tremor in his right hand. He could neither hunt nor make tools, but the clan gave the shaman all he needed in gratitude for his spiritual leadership. It was he who knew the sacred songs and stories, and it was he who preserved the ways of the clan in ceremony to guarantee that the natural world remained in balance with the world of the spirits. The shaman sat beside Keenock with his drum between his knees. He looked intently at the injured man for a few moments before he took dark red ash from his waist pouch and sprinkled it over Keenock's still body. Then Janu threw back his head and began to chant in a low, pulsating voice. His hands echoed the rhythm of his words on his drum. Dar had heard the shaman chant the legends of his clan many times, but now he found the words impossible to understand. The song seemed to be sung for the world of the spirits. Janu sat crouched over his drum, playing and chanting until it was dark inside the tent. Then he stopped and seemed to shake himself into wakefulness. He stood up. "Mara, I have delivered the message to the other world." The shaman left as abruptly as he had entered. Dar lit a fire in the tent's hearth, and he and Mara sat down near Keenock to watch and care for him throughout the night. When the morning light finally came through the tent skin, they could see that Keenock's bleeding had stopped. Mara smiled at Dar. "You, the healing plants, and the spirits have saved Keenock. Now, get some rest." Dar shook his head. I have to build the morning fire first." He got up, reached out to lift the tent flap, and noticed his injured hand. It was now red-streaked where the talons of the hawk had slashed it during his climb. He walked back and rubbed a bit of the salve on his hand. Then he straightened his shoulders and left the tent.